My name is Aaron Jones, and I am addicted to methamphetamines, marijuana, and alcohol. I grew up in San Diego, California, and my dad was an alcoholic. You never knew how the atmosphere of the home was going to be night to night. There was a lot of screaming and yelling, made me feel sad and inadequate growing up. I spent a lot of time at other friends' houses until I was about 15. When I was 15, started smoking pot, drinking. Got this little piece, this false sense of everything's okay, numb yourself. And eventually I got into methamphetamines, which really made me feel like Superman. I felt very confident. I felt like I could do anything on meth. I married my high school sweetheart when I was 21. And by 2002, I decided I'm going to get off drugs. I got my CDL and I grabbed my wife and kids and we came to Oklahoma. We tried to live the white picket fence life with our 2 daughters. And it worked for about 2 years. And then in 2004, I started dabbling again with methamphetamines on the weekends. By 2006, I was in full-blown addiction. Using weekly, my wife was using with me. I was living in denial that I had no problem. And anybody around me could really see I did have a problem. I was broken and I was lost and I was scared. I was making a mess of my life and I didn't want to admit it. In 2007, I decided to just quit cold turkey, quit using meth, trying to save my marriage and rebuild my life. And what happened is I fell into a 2-year-long depression. I felt empty and lonely and isolated, and I didn't want to get out of bed. I was a shell of a person. I wasn't the husband I needed to be, friend, father. I couldn't guide my children. I started going to counselors and doctors, just trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Psychiatrists, and they start prescribing antidepressants. And this one doesn't work, here, try this one. And some of them make you feel worse, some of them make you feel a little bit better, but nothing really worked. There was this emptiness inside me, and nothing could fix it. So in 2009, which was the worst year of my life, I started off with my dad dying, and I was laid off of work. And while my dad was dying, I couldn't deal with it. I didn't deal with it at all. I didn't know how. And I ended up going straight back into drinking and using drugs. And I got arrested for misdemeanor domestic violence. And my wife left me and we were getting divorced. We were done. I just felt so broken, so empty, so hopeless, so helpless, so hurt. I didn't know how to deal with life. In 2010, I started attending an anonymous 12-step program. It opened my eyes to some spiritual principles such as honesty, hope, and faith. Around that same time, I got this calling. I felt like I needed to go to church. So I asked a friend if I could go with her, and I did. And my wife happened to be there. At this time, our divorce papers were signed, and there was just a $177 filing fee and a 30-day waiting period away from divorce. So we ended up sitting together, and the message that day was on loyalty, a forgotten virtue. So I'm sitting there looking at the screen, I'm thinking, oh yeah, she's gonna learn a thing or two about loyalty. And needless to say, God's word just pierced right through the hardness in my heart, right into the depths. And I said, man, I'm not as loyal as I think I am. From that day, everything started to change. By June 13th of 2010, I had given my life to Christ. On July 25th, 2010, I got completely sober. In August, my wife moved back in with me, and we began the restoration of our marriage. In September, my wife and my children, the 4 of us, we all got baptized at our church. Since becoming a follower of Christ, my life has completely changed. My marriage has been restored. My family's been reunited. I'm a man that I can look at the mirror and be proud to say that I'm doing what I need to do to lead my family spiritually and financially. We are leaders of the Good Fight Ministries, a Christ-centered recovery group. I work with men one-on-one to try to help them change their life so they don't have to feel any longer the pain and the suffering, the brokenness and the helplessness and the hopelessness that I used to feel. I believe that the misery in my life is now ministry, and the tragedy of my life story is now a testimony. God can use all things to the good of those who love Him. Adultery, addiction, depression, recovery, restoration, life change. That's my story.